waiting just to say, Meg, I'm not sure if it was you who organized this one, but thank you to whoever did organize it. This is a much better, now I've lost my camera, hang on. This is a much better time for those of us on this side of the pond.
Excellent, good. Yeah, we're always trying to figure out how we can find a time that works best for everyone. I think Juliet probably organized this. I don't know, did we do a poll, Juliet, or did we kind of arbitrarily pick this time?
This is our normally scheduled leadership meeting time, so we just turned it into a town hall.
Great. Okay, we'll have to keep in mind that this is a pretty good time for people then. And
yeah, we've been talking about that in early career, trying to find the best time, and this is the exact time that everyone has agreed upon.
Oh, good.
So
it's kind of after dinner, but and the kids have gone to bed, or at least they've disappeared to their rooms. It's not quite my bedtime, but it's on the cusp. It's just the 9 to 10 slot. It's just you've just tipped a bit into the evening in Europe a little bit.
Yes. Awesome. And I know that the census for most have been just crazy right now. So our inpatient folks are struggling, I think, to finish up to jump on the meeting. So I'm glad to see we have a good group on.
Andreas, the president, will be joining us today. And also our CEO is also joining us.
Excellent. The more the merrier.
Good evening, good afternoon. This is your beloved president sitting here. Greeting and want to send you holiday greetings. No, I decided and I discussed with Greg that I want to join now all the PC meetings because I'm really interested to listen to you, what's going on, what your ideas are, what your wishes are for the holiday season, and trying to find ways to make things happen. So, but first of all, I want to tell all of you how thankful I am that you're working for ISHLT and taking time to help us to make the society better, that your voices are heard. This is very important. Allied health is very important, and nursing. And I want to hear what your ideas are for the next year, what's going on, and what your needs are. So this is the time where you can make wishes and bring up ideas, and Greg and I will try to make some of them happen. So thank you very much, and I'll just now sit back and relax and listen to you, ladies.
That's great. Thank you so much. I'm Meg Fregoso. I'm the chair of our allied health group, and we have our other chair members with us today too. And this is normally our professional community Zoom, but we really wanted to open up to the entire group to get a sense of how people were doing and how we can continue to keep communication open. And we really wanted people to bring their ideas so that we could be prepared to share them, especially for the Leadership Advisory Forum in January, which I think is really important. One of the things we were talking about is how to get the updates out to folks about opportunities to participate, the easiest ways to communicate with folks. And I think one thing we've already solved today is the best time to have a meeting that is internationally the best time. So our friends from the UK and from the East Coast, the West Coast can all participate. So that was kind of our focus. And we have a little bit of an agenda today. And one thing we wanted to talk about is the updated dues structure. And we're going to have Juliet talk to us a little bit about that, and we're very excited about it. And I think it was a lot of work that came out of the Nursing Allied Health group to really push to have a tiered membership structure so that it's obtainable for everyone who wants to participate.
All right, so I put in the chat the link to directly go to the page where the new dues structure explains exactly the 4 groups that we created. So we have physicians, non-physicians, and trainees, and it's organized in high, middle, low income economies, and based on the World Bank. Physician membership, non-physician membership, training membership, and also retired. Those are the 4 categories. This group will fit into the non-physician membership, which is open to all individuals who are actively engaged in transplantation, medicine, and related to any medical commercial fields that are not physicians. So for that, the price it's also tiered. So the price for non-physicians in the high income is $225 for membership. For middle is $75, and for low income economies is $25. So we hope to encourage more people to join, and the pricing will not be a hindrance for their participation or engagement. And these prices are for 2023. They'll be the first time we created tiered membership, and hopefully it will help build and grow the Nursing Allied Health PC.
Yeah, special thanks and commendations to this group and all of the Nursing Allied Health folks and those folks, Karen Birch on the board, and who really helped to make this happen. And so you can see we've got a 40% discount on membership for that NAH tier, and you'll see also those kinds of discounts reflected in annual meeting registration fees as well. Yay. So it's all about removing barriers to participation, and we financed this by an increase in the physician member dues rate, so that it's net neutral for the society over time, and of course we hope the goal is to expand members, to grow membership through this.
That's really exciting. And I think, anything we can do to get the word out so that we can get more folks signed up and, again, increase participation and communication in our professional community would be wonderful. And Karen Birch, sorry she couldn't make it today, but she wanted to join it. And as you said, she was really instrumental in this. So we really appreciate it. Okay. Any questions about that? Any thoughts about that? Okay. So the next thing on our agenda is an update on our Nursing Allied Health webinar, which we've been working on. And Brittany, I think, is going to kind of give us an update on that.
Yeah, so we are partnering with the Early Career Trainee Committee to host a webinar, and it's going to focus on preparing for the annual meeting. The webinar is going to have 4 topics that we'll cover, and it's going to be someone is going to present on how to develop a poster for the annual meeting. We'll have another person present on how to give an oral presentation and a mini oral presentation. We have another person who's going to talk about what it's like traveling internationally and preparing for going abroad for a conference. And then the 4th topic is going to be on developing a case study for that category in the poster along with that. So we're excited for that. We're planning for it to probably be in February. We're working on the dates right now, but our hope was that we would plan this soon after people get their acceptance and know how they'll be presenting at the 2023 meeting. But we're here to support you, to help you develop your presentations.
Thank you. And Brittany is taking the lead on this. Thank you, Brittany. I don't know if this is a good time for us to discuss any thoughts on potential future webinars. And, you know, sometimes it's hard to determine, or, you know, how many surveys can people take? You know, do people want to see more emails? You know, what's the best forum to have these discussions? So certainly if anyone has any like really exciting ideas or anything that they want to see in the future, definitely let us know. And as we make our way through our agenda, we're going to talk a little bit about the annual meeting next year and how we want to get together as a group and kind of discuss these, you know, future opportunities. Anyone have any hot topics they want to share?
Meg, do we put symposium on the agenda? Are we talking about that later, or are we talking about that?
Yes, we will definitely. Yes.
Okay, then I will hold my comments.
Yes, good reminder though. Thank you. Okay. And I think Christiane is on with us. And one of the big reasons why we wanted to open today's meeting up as a town hall is, again, to gather feedback that we can bring to the board. And Christiane, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about what that looks like, because, you know, you're on the committee for that, you and Sarah couldn't meet up, was not able to come today to the meeting.
My first LAF meeting in January next year, and I really look forward to it. Nevertheless, it's the time today to collect your thoughts, your ideas, your concerns, whatever you deem necessary, and most important, what's hot topics to bring them to the board in January.
I had a hard time hearing. I'm not sure if I'm the only one.
It was a little difficult to hear at first, but I think, Christiane, you were saying that, you know, we just want to be available to collect ideas for, you know, what's important for our council going forward in the new year. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it seems like, you know, a focus on, you know, clinical topics, maybe what would be good for standards and guidelines, how to involve more of our membership, kind of the ideas about best way to communicate, how to get ideas across. So those are some of the topics I think that we're focusing on. Does that sound about right?
Yes.
Okay, great. Excellent. So I don't know if anyone has any ideas that they want to share. We also want to let you know that we're available to email directly anyone, you know, in the professional community. You know, also want to ask if people would like to have more frequent town halls. I think this is the second one that we've done this year, along with a couple of kind of workshops. So, you know, people are very busy. It's hard to know if that is helpful, or if it's, you know, kind of one more thing that they have to put on their agenda, that they have too much going on. So I don't know if anyone has any thoughts or comments about that.
Well, related to that, I think Christiane had asked about what are the hot topics in nursing and allied health, and what is our focus? And I think she gave some examples in an email. I didn't know if we wanted to share that with the group, what her thoughts were, or there was a few flying around, but I think one was a focus on palliative care and its role in transplant and mechanical support. I think in the US, there's really growing interest in social determinants of health and health disparities, particularly in transplant, and how that impacts evaluation and how that impacts post-transplant outcomes. So I think that that's very supported in nursing in the US right now, but wanted to gather other people's thoughts about what are you seeing in clinical practice that you think is a hot topic that would suit well for nursing and allied health.
Yeah, I think those are both really good. All are good suggestions. The other thing that I've heard from some folks is, again, looking at staffing, and, you know, so many of our clinics run a little differently, even though we see essentially the same patients. So to really have a focus on that. And then the other is, a transplant clinical ladder, something that we could bring back to our centers and say, here's how we prove that we are advanced practice, based on X, Y, and Z. And I think if you're hospital-based or clinic-based, many health systems have a clinical ladder that's established, but generally maybe they don't have a very specialized clinical ladder for MCS or PH or transplant. And I know some centers are working on that. And I don't know if that's something that we would want to form maybe for a working group to look at, because I think that's a way for us to go back to the administration and our directors and say, here's what we're doing and what that means.
Meg, I think that's a really good idea. This is Angie. Hi. I'm sorry I had to join a few minutes late. There is a white paper put out by the International Transplant Nursing Society on career ladder. And we use that paper to launch a career ladder here. So that is an opportunity for some cross collaboration, which we've done in the past. So I would just mention that. I think that's a great idea. I do think, when we did this paper in 2012 and we came together and had a lot of, it was international and it was really a great turnout, but we did discover that the transplant coordinator role, or just the coordinator role, even for MCS, it varies widely, across the world. And it's very hard to, because of that, institute a baseline, but it might be time to revisit something like that. I think there is a lot of interest in development of things like that. So I think it wouldn't be bad to maybe revisit that as well. Everything hinges on models of care, which you already mentioned, are very different. So it's very hard to get something that one size fits all, but it's certainly still an interesting topic to talk about, because I think what we're seeing is we're being held more to staffing requirements, and whether we do the same things or not, I think we're being held to the same kind of staffing, even if our models of care are not the same. And that's starting to, in the past, I don't know that we were, but I think we are seeing more of that now, which is sometimes hard to do.
Thank you so much. Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And, I think the other thing that you hit upon was, my sense is that ISHLT really wants to start to partner even more with, other organizations that support, for instance, nursing or whatever the case may be. And so, looking at that partnership again with ITNS, and pulling the information and the data that they already have, so that we have the white paper, we have that structure to update now, because I think just as you said, as acuity grows and we have more treatment modalities, we just get busier and busier, and we're doing it with the same number of folks, and maybe that's not appropriate anymore. Maybe we need to look at other resources. So I don't know if that's something that would be good for a small working group, or if that's an S&G thing, but that's something that we should put on our radar for sure.
So a cross collaboration kind of thing like that is something that ISHLT would support.
Definitely, yes. It's
Kind of as a pre-meeting kind of thing. I'm just trying to think in my head what,
yeah,
what that was like. That was how it was before, but
it was a pre-meeting workshop before, or
well, it was, but it was not supported. It was supported, but it had other support too. So
well, I think if we would need a specific, an abstract of a project, and then we can figure out what's the best way to work together. I mean, but I can say broadly speaking, partnerships like this are essential to supporting communities like this within ISHLT, where the Nursing Allied Health Group is about 9–10% of ISHLT. And in order to make it relevant for you, we need to partner with those vertical organizations like ITNS in as many ways as possible, so that you're kind of getting the best of both worlds. So let's put some structure around it and find a way to do it.
Sounds great.
Thank you. Okay, and so the next thing we have is planning for the conference next year. And I think what we did last year is we had our Nursing Allied Health kind of networking event. And, you know, I think for the folks that were able to join us, it was a really good opportunity just to connect socially, but also a lot of great symposium ideas came from that meeting. You know, a lot of connections about, you know, how do things run at your center? How do things run at your center? So I think we are going to have a dedicated networking time again for next year. Is that right, Juliet? Correct me if I'm wrong, Greg. That's the plan for right now.
That's correct.
Okay.
There will be dedicated time for the professional communities and then dedicated time for the IDNs.
Okay.
Separate.
And I guess, you know, we were just wondering if we wanted to structure ours to actually have breakout groups, you know, for specific, you know, hot topics, or if we want to just keep it very casual and social. And we could probably do a little bit of both. So we just wanted to get a sense of what's worked for people in the past. What do people prefer?
Well, I can give you an update on what we're looking at. You know, we last year or this year in Boston, the meeting was unstructured, and it wasn't great. And what we kind of found that we needed a mix of social time and some kind of a platform to have a structured discussion about actual projects. And so it's 1 hour. The professional community meeting is 1 hour. So we were looking at just splitting it up and having it 30 minutes of a sort of an agenda structured time, and then 30 minutes of a social time. It's an early evening with cocktails and such. So what do you think of that format?
I think that would be much better attended than the midday event. I think people are racing to meetings, and I think it's hard in the middle of the day. I found it really hard. I mean, I made it, but I think everybody's got things that they're trying to hit. I do think it's really helpful to have some agenda items that we can get from membership to really, some of the things that we're already talking about here, so that people, that pulls them in. Just, hey, we're going to have a quick discussion about these 3 or 4 things. Doesn't have to be too detailed, but then that'll start the hopeful conversation afterward of how to make those things happen.
I agree. I think a few years ago, or many years ago, maybe when we were in Nice, it had that format of there was a bit of presentation stuff going on first, and certainly for somebody who was at that point new to ISHLT, it was really helpful to have a who's who of what committee and what's the structure of the organization look like. And then you meet people afterwards, and that's really important, where you sort of bounce ideas off and things. But I agree. I mean, I think I just caught you, Meg, had it this year, but it was competing with so many other different events in the schedule. It just didn't work timing wise for me very well this year. But I think having a bit of a who's who, a bit of an update on where we sit within the organization, and then chance to kind of chat afterwards about ideas and what are the hot topics at your centers, I think would be really helpful for people. It's also a little less intimidating for people that are new if you come in and have something that's a bit structured, because the ISHLT is so big. If it's your first time, it can be hard to know who to talk to and things.
I agree. 2019 was my first meeting, and there was structure to that meeting, so I actually went. But if it was just a go up and introduce yourself, I don't know that I would have gone. So I think having the structure would be really nice. Yeah.
That's great. So maybe start with the structure and then go to the social after people have had an opportunity to meet with a structure.
Yes, because I remember some people had presented and I was like, I need to go talk to them. So before it came first, I wouldn't know who to go talk to.
That's great.
You might think also about highlighting or emphasizing the abstracts that are being presented, or the sessions that are being presented that would really link with this group. Obviously, when you take a look at the preliminary program, it talks about everything is associated with nursing allied health, right? So it's like that doesn't really help. When I look at that preliminary program, it's not very helpful for sorting in some ways. But I think that this session could also highlight for people maybe a couple of abstracts that people that are newer, maybe new career people or something, that put in abstracts that would encourage others to think about doing the same. So I think a lot of times people are intimidated by doing that. They don't know anybody that's done it. And this might be a great opportunity, just one or two, not more than maybe 5 or 6 minutes, but just a chance to show people that seriously, there are people in this council or in this professional community that are really putting together a lot of good stuff.
That's
Just
great.
a thought.
I think that sounds great.
Yeah. There will also be the identification of needs process related to standards and guidelines. That's going to open up in March, and it will continue over the annual meeting, specifically so that the professional communities and the IDNs can talk about it in person. What kinds of standards and guidelines and consensus documents would you like to see developed, or what needs to be updated? And you'll recall that there were a lot of emails about that process in 2021. We skipped it in 2022 in order to get back on cycle in 2023.
Those are great suggestions. Anything else that people feel might be helpful for that networking, that meetup at the actual conference? I like the cocktail hour, supported 100%. Sounds great. Always good. But I'm writing down all these ideas, and I think maybe closer to the time of the conference, we will put an agenda together. And again, I don't know if it's best to send, an email out to solicit suggestions for that, the best way to communicate and get those ideas together. I don't know if people get the emails, if it would be more helpful to have more frequent town halls like this to kind of keep communication open. I don't know how people feel about that. If I'm trying to gather folks at our center, I don't know if trying to get people to represent their center and bring all their friends to try to get more people involved, because I know sometimes it's crazy, and if you get one person to participate and share that information, sometimes we can get more people involved that way.
Meg, would you also consider ribbons that would identify like new members, so that we could really approach them? So something, just goes to the bottom of the badge. They may already have that, but we should really encourage people to pull them and actually put them on their badges, so we know that they're new, or maybe they're a new member of the professional community or something, so that we can actually approach them and say, well, and actually welcome them, as opposed to I can't remember who said it. Maybe it was, it wasn't Nikki, but anyway, whoever said it, that it was Brittany. The first time I went, is like I would not have approached anybody, and I think that's not an uncommon feeling. So if we know they're new members or they're new to the group, we can make it a point to approach them, as opposed to waiting for them to come up.
That's a great idea.
May I briefly jump in, because next year for the meeting, I convinced my transplant psychologist to join us. She never went to the meeting. She said, "Oh, I don't know anybody, so we'll need some mommies and daddies to take care of her," that she gets introduced and becomes a member. And I hired a transplant coordinator nurse starting in January, which is the first time in our hospital that we hired somebody like that. Because what I learned about your profession in the US is I have to transfer it into that, and she will be too new for the meeting, but next year in Prague, I definitely will bring her. And I need, again, some mommies and daddies who will take care of her and lead her by the hand, and so she can introduce. And I think this is exactly what you're trying to do. I will bring the people and you take care of them so they feel comfortable and at home, and they will become hopefully active members in the future. I think this is a very important step. So thank you so much for that.
I think the other thing that was really successful last year was I think we had a first time attendee breakfast.
Mhm.
And I think there was a good representation there. And I feel like folks who were there for the first time felt taken care of, and we're able to kind of get some tricks of the trade and lay of the land. And I think sometimes it's hard to spread the word. And I know there are a few people from our center that we kind of added in last minute. So I hope that's something we continue next year if possible. And I think the ribbons would also, really help. So all great suggestions for sure.
Yeah, and I can confirm we will be doing the first time attendee breakfast. We will have I can't remember if the ribbons are first time attendee or new member. It's one or the other. I can't remember. But I like I think it's important to welcome both. So I'll have to figure out which way we've gone on that.
And just to go back to your earlier comment, Greg, as well about consensus statements in terms of what needs updating or what people think might need writing. I think one of the things that's helpful is for us to be able to showcase consensus statements that members of this group have contributed to in the past, because I think it kind of helps you to feel like, oh, okay, I can be in this council and actually can do something. It's not all doctors and surgeons doing it and things. So I think there's probably a number of us here who either have been or are currently involved in consensus statements, and it'd be really great to kind of try to inspire people to pick up that baton in the future.
Wonderful idea. So highlight.
And Greg, I think either new attendee or first attendee or new member. I think either one would work,
Yeah.
because either way it would indicate to us that they're new to this. Whether it's the organization or the meeting, it would work either way. So I wouldn't worry either way. Either way would work.
Thanks. And that way, all of the mommies and daddies can swoop in and take care.
Yes, Andreas, we've got you covered.
I wonder if we asked Nursing Allied Health if they wanted to share anything that they were kind of along the same lines as what Melissa was saying, consensus statement they were involved in, something they're very proud of, something that they've been working on, something that's kind of something that they're doing in their center that is, up and coming and something groundbreaking, a way to participate that doesn't necessarily have to be, I'm giving a talk, I submitted an abstract, it's just a way for us to kind of acknowledge the work that, we're all doing in the community.
A great idea. I wonder, and that's almost something we could circulate in advance on Twitter or on the social app, or maybe on ISHLT Connect. There's some opportunities there.
What's the current status of Twitter now? Everything's up and running again. People can use that.
Don't know.
We don't know.
We're actually ISHLT is looking at Mastodon and all the other kinds of options just in case.
And we don't have any kind of like a Facebook presence or Instagram or anything. We do. Okay.
We have a Facebook presence. It's in terms of social media, we get the most traction from LinkedIn. And then there's a lot on Twitter, and Facebook is kind of and also ran. There's not a lot of, we haven't been able to coalesce a lot of interest on Facebook.
Okay. Maybe that's something we could look at, just as another way to get the word out, depending on what people are most comfortable with and what they're checking on their phone more frequently. So.
Well, and anything that we have to promote, whether it's, a message to the NIH community before the annual meeting, we will put it on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Everything goes on all 3 channels.
Okay, so lots of good ideas for our networking time for next year. I think the other thing, Brittany alluded to this a little bit, is symposium proposals. And if we want to carve out some time for that, or if we want to have a separate meeting. Colleen and Brittany, what are your thoughts on that?
I didn't go to our networking session in May or whenever, April, was it? Yeah, the last meeting. I didn't make it to that one, but I had heard from you and others that there was a lot of discussion about people having ideas for submitting symposiums, and that prompted us to say, okay, how can we support nursing and allied health members in getting those together and submitting those? So we kind of had a last minute session where we were like, bring your ideas, we'll help define them a little bit more. And it was a little bit, I don't know, it may have been in May and then they're due in June. So I think our thought this year was, can we start thinking about that earlier so that we can make connections for people, and then host that session earlier so that you have more time to incorporate feedback and stuff. So I guess one of the things is, do people have ideas? When do they want to start working on those? What's a good timeline for people so that we could better support that?
Yeah, I'll just chime in to say too, yes, I think it was well received when we did do it, and really just generated some great ideas. I think the earlier, the better. Also, the review process went through some changes this year. So I think we have at least I do have a better idea of how proposals are chosen. And I think engagement with the IDNs and the professional communities, those were the sessions that really rose to the top. So that gives people time to kind of vet their proposals, and I think has a better chance of being accepted. And I would say going through it this year, I think I have a better idea of how to advise people than we have in the past. So yeah, earlier. It's hard to think about things a year in advance, but that seems to be the most successful.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Colleen. And I think as we are adjusting to the PCs and the IDNs and how we share information and ideas and communicate, getting together sooner rather than later to support each other and put those ideas, kind of organize those ideas to then bring back to our IDNs is a good idea. And it was challenging last year. As we were kind of figuring out how everything worked, but I think we're going to be in a better place next year to kind of streamline that communication. So,
and to that end, if I can look ahead a little bit, the ISHLT structure is going to continue to evolve, and we're a learning organization. 3 years ago, we put this new structure in place that was developed to solve a problem, and inadvertently it created other problems and challenges. And so we've spent, the last 2 years or so kind of learning how to inhabit the structure and what works, and maybe what we threw out inadvertently and need to bring back. And so we will be, that'll be a big topic at the board meeting in January, is what's the next iteration look like? And my sense is, not having had the meeting yet, I don't know, but my sense is that we will be sort of working our way back to some of the components of the former council structure that made it possible for more people to get involved and to know how to get stuff done. And I think those are the two things that we lost in support of the grand idea of multidisciplinary and all that. So we'll be working our way back to that. And my hope is that by the time we have that meeting in April in Denver, we'll be able to tell the community, okay, you know, this is the next iteration, and it looks, some of it is familiar to those of you who were here before, and so it'll give more opportunities for people to become involved.
Yeah, I think one of the things that was lost that I'd like to see come back is we had started that research working group where we could start to collaborate together and work on ideas.
Absolutely.
See that
Yeah.
come back. I'd also love to see the Nursing and Allied Health Research Grant come back to support some of the work within the council. I'll keep thinking about my wish list.
No, keep reminding us, keep reminding me. You know, that's exactly it. The first thing that you mentioned exactly, sort of the ability to create task forces and work groups to get things done and involve new people and bring them in. And we kind of lost that. In terms of the grant, that'll be a discussion for the foundation, but the foundation is, you know, growing quickly, much more quickly than anyone thought. So I think we'll be seeing some good things there too.
That's really exciting to hear. I think that's, you know, what people have been asking for. And again, any opportunity to get more folks involved and more direct line of communication is always effective. I will say that, you know, the PCs and the IDNs, it's been nice in a way for folks that are involved, because I think we've gotten to know folks a lot more, you know, intimately, closely, you know, having those working relationships. And we want to offer that to all of nursing, allied health, and the other communities too. So that's great to hear.
Yeah.
And then I think, again, this is probably what we talked about, just discussing ideas to allow time for collaboration. It's kind of along those lines. So that's something we can look forward to for the meeting, but also some work offline, you know, before then. So what maybe we'll do is send all these ideas and notes out to the group, and you know, we can start thinking about the collaboration with ITNS to look at clinical ladder and staffing, and ideas for symposiums, and you know, getting our networking and agenda together for the meeting, and getting more first-time attendees involved, and allowing folks to showcase what they're doing professionally, personally, and as a center. And I think a lot of great ideas. Is there anything else that folks have that they want to bring up, or they have questions about, or want to share?
I was just going to add to that, Meg. It'd be great if we could have one of these meetings kind of ahead of symposium submission deadline, because I think each of us will have a pharmacist and, you know, a physician and a nurse, and it's sometimes knowing, actually, okay, I need to represent Australia. Who's out in Australia who can help me with this symposium? And I need somebody from North America who knows somebody in North America. So when you're trying to kind of pull in your sort of generation geography, and your kind of multi-disciplines, like actually if we came together and said, okay, we're thinking of putting this in, who's interested, who knows somebody who might be able to bring something, there's such a richer experience then, I think, for people, and a better, I don't know, maybe a better chance that symposium actually get put forward in a meaningful way, and therefore accepted, because you've got some really good collaboration going on.
That's an excellent idea. I think we should absolutely do that. And the other thing I was thinking, and Angie, I don't know, you know, what your thoughts on this, you know, for the folks that are on the programming committee, I almost feel like it would be helpful just to have a good overview of what that looks like. I mean, it's kind of hard to go through and explain. It's so many moving parts, but for folks in nursing allied health, if they had an idea of that, this is how we put it together. This is the thought process. And, if you go in thinking, oh, okay, now I know what would be helpful, what I'd like to see as a symposium and how to put that together. If we had kind of the backstory of how the program committee works, it may be helpful for people to put those ideas together. What do you think, Angie?
Yeah, I definitely agree that that would be helpful. I was going to ask also just, I know there's feedback loop where we get IDN communication. We kind of know what the specific IDNs want to focus on and what they'd like to hear more about. And I'm just curious, I can't remember, was that also addressed at the community level? For instance, are we able to tease out what does nursing and allied health want more of or want to see more of? Is that something that is teased out in the survey that's done every year? Yes, no? The only reason I asked that question is I found that so helpful when you're doing symposium planning or what have you. It's like, okay, this is what people want to hear, so this is where we should focus our attention. I just think it's helpful if we could in some way do that same thing at the community level, like for nursing and allied health. What are you wanting? Because sometimes I feel like in this meeting, we're all struggling to engage membership, which we should be doing, but it would help us to know. And then you just come together on the things that cross over everyone, because we know that there are those things. And we already talked about that, like social determinants of health and health equity, that's everyone. Transplant career ladder or models of care or things like that, that's everybody. So there are things that will cross over really nicely and can be very inclusive. And I think if we could get to a way where we could just go to that list and be like, okay, wow, this was at the top of the list, we should really be focusing on this, or these are the top 5 things, this is where our energy should go. Because I know that this community has a very long list. It's just getting to the things that everyone seems to care about. So I don't know if there is that community level kind of, what would you like to hear more about from your community? Or what would you like your community to do? Or how could they serve you better or something like that? I don't know, but I think we do it at the IDN level, right? So it might be nice to see that at the community level too.
I think that's a great idea as a first step in the process, because the whole idea of this structure is things bubble up from the professional communities through the IDNs.
Right.
And so, but I don't know that we have had a formal survey at the beginning of the process, Would it be
Well,
something that you'd like to see open-ended, or would you like a pull-down list of topics for people to sort of vote on? Or
personally, well, is it, so how, I can't remember the survey that we have to complete at the end of the meeting. So I think it can just, how it works that way. I think there is free texting of things, but I think there are probably some pull down stuff too.
Yeah.
I just think there might need to be a question in there that's driven toward your community.
I think
Because
that's a great idea.
I mean, we're really trying to appeal to both things. Like, I'm
Right,
very interested, obviously, in the idea, the IDN that interests me, and that,
Right.
multidisciplinary cross collaboration. But I think then at this level, we're going to be maybe interested in different things. So.
And I have found that, in my IDN for lung transplant, that, very interested to hear what nursing allied health has been doing, and very complimentary of everything that we are doing. But I think you're right, to be able to bring that information to the IDN, that then, we work together as a group, how to get a good sense from folks what's really important to them. and
We're
whether,
doing the hard work right now, and I think we
Right.
could just ask them to tell us.
right,
It'd
right.
be a lot easier.
Yeah.
But to Andreas's point, I think the other thing that I'm getting a lot of communication is, emerging transplant programs across the world want to understand how are we doing what we do at the transplant coordinator level, because they recognize how important that is. And I'm actually being asked to do a presentation, and I'm really having to think about, what should go into that, because it is all about this role that we do. And it has become, I would say, an entry-level coordinator these days has a very steep learning curve, because what you need to know in order to treat patients today is pretty huge. So I think there's a big need for that, to kind of, but that goes back to the 2012 white paper, and kind of trying to talk about some of that kind of stuff. But I think you might get some people with those kinds of questions. So.
That's
Well,
a
I
great
think
idea.
it is, and so, and I've got a list of great. You guys are hot today with the creativity. This is great. I mean, I have what I think could be a good template for the PC meetings in Denver, for all of them, really. I mean, sort of generic agenda. But I just love the idea of a formalized process of gathering topical interest or information at the very beginning of the annual meeting process, built around the abstract submission categories that we use, so that it can be followed through. So I will talk with the rest of the team and see what makes sense, and see if we can put that in place.
Great.
Yeah.
We might be surprised what funnels to the top. I mean, I think I know the interest, but you never know.
I think what we'll find, everything is connected in some way, and it's as you mentioned, there's the 2012 paper that's connected to abstracts and education and research. There are these pillars, and it's how we build connections off of those pillars in different ways.
Excellent.
Can I do a shameless plug, Meg, before I have to disappear?
Please. Yes, please do.
And I think Michael is still here as well. I'm sure something has gone out, but I think we've said before, there's so much ISHLT email traffic. It's hard to lose track. It's hard to keep track for me of what's come from where, but we are finally getting to do the first Masterclass Academy for this council this year. And I know certainly here in the UK, people this week on the WhatsApp have erupted with, have you seen this flight deal and this hotel and all the rest of it? I don't know whether it's worth us just putting something out to remind people, because obviously that's before the main program starts. It does mean kind of coming a day earlier, but a lot of work, and Michael, chime in if I'm missing anything. This was supposed to be presented in, where were we going? Were we going to Toronto originally?
It was Toronto in 2020. Yeah.
And we were really psyched. We were really excited to be able to kind of represent the council in that way at that point in time. And then COVID just, got in the way like everywhere else. So it is back on for Denver, and we're just kind of making sure that we're still current and relevant. But I think we're probably post the holidays, people are starting to book things, and I just wonder whether we should remind people of that, because a lot of good work has gone into putting that program together.
Yes. We will do so. Good idea. Thank you. Good reminder.
Thank you.
Yeah, because it's not just the NIH Academy, but there's also a lung and I believe there's pediatric MCS. So all of those groups would need to know and think about their travel. Thank you.
Great. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think sometimes we're working in our silos, right? We're working on our projects, and sometimes we're not all aware, who's doing what, and any way to support each other. And I think absolutely we need to do that.
I think the other thing about the Masters Academy is it has a different structure. So we think about academies as being very didactic in a lot of ways. And in the Masters Academy, it's very interactive. So we're really excited about that element to this particular academy. And we really encourage people from, at all levels to be there, because I think it's going to really engender a lot of really interesting conversation. So we're really looking forward to it.
That sounds amazing. Do we have an agenda for it that we could start, like the new coordinators at your center who would really benefit from that? We can really start talking it up so we can get them on the list to be able to come to the meeting?
I think that the goal of the Masters Academy is actually experienced coordinators. So we do so many things that we try to get to the entry level people, but in the Masters Academy, it's a limited population, or limited attendance, and it's really focused on experienced coordinators. So it'll be a little bit different from that perspective. But I think getting the word out will be awesome. And I think thanks for bringing it up. I think it's true. And Christiana is on the line as well, and she's also a part of the academy.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and I think that that's important to remember, that it's for the sort of the more experienced clinicians as well, because I think there's some of the stuff that's been generated in terms of symposium ideas and things that we've talked about. There's end of life care. There's complex psychosocial, you shouldn't, but we're going to transplant anyway. I think there'd be some really good nitty gritty discussions that'll be useful to people. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. And thanks everyone for taking the time and participating. I think we had lots of great ideas, and we'll plan on more of these meetings, and we'll send kind of an update out. And please, if anyone has additional suggestions or other things that they'd like to see, please feel free to reach out to us directly as well.
Great meeting. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thanks,
Guys.
Ken.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.